What's up, everybody? This is Colby Wood with the Medical Sales Certification Podcast, and happy Friday. This is the Friday after Thanksgiving 2018, and wanted to put together a quick podcast for a couple of things. First of all, wanted to encourage you guys to really be thankful for what you guys have, for what we all have, and there are varying degrees of that. Some people have more than others, but first and foremost, especially if you live in America, like we're in far and away the best society that has ever been. And we have the freedom to do what we want, when we want, how we want, and more freedom to be able to do that than ever before in any civilization. So, if there's anything, or if you're struggling to think about what to be thankful for, number one, be thankful for the opportunity to pursue what you want in life. And that there's really not a whole lot that holds people back that's external. I think there's a lot that holds people back internally, and I've been there before, and I sympathize and empathize with that. But I wanted to just touch on that. And what I've been thinking about over the last kind of 24 hours is how thankful I am to have found a career that gives me a lot of fulfillment and enjoyment and excitement in life, that I don't dread getting up in the morning and going to work, that there's a certain level of interest and curiosity that I have in the medical field and in the sales world, and blending those two together, really it's been a great mix for me. And I got lucky. I got lucky to find this industry. I'd said on some earlier podcasts, but when I was coming out of college, I didn't know what I was going to do with my career. And I had a buddy that worked for Stryker, orthopedic medical device company, and he's like, "You should get into sales, medical sales, that is." And I figured I'd do it for a little while till I figured out what I actually wanted to do with my life. But here I am, 6-7 years later, still doing it, and enjoying it, being more fulfilled than I have ever before. But what I wanted to encourage any of you that are listening to this, is to think about if you're in a career that is not fulfilling to you, that doesn't get you motivated, and that doesn't give you anything in return outside of just punching a time card and collecting a paycheck. You don't need to stop that career, because obviously you have bills to pay, you have people to support, you've got to support yourself or your family or whatnot. And I'm not ignorant to the fact that in every job you have to do things that you don't want to do. That's not, that's the idea of do what you love. Like, sure, that sounds good, but everything that you want in life, everything you want to do in your career, in any career, is going to involve some level of doing things that you don't want to do. And so I'm not ignorant to that, but what I would say is I think there's so many people that on a day like Friday like this, or on a weekend, they're working a job 9 to 5 during the week that they don't really like, that doesn't give them a whole lot of fulfillment or reward financially or otherwise, yet they don't spend their free time or their downtime experimenting with other things that would potentially bring them more fulfillment or enjoyment. There's so much information out there in the world to teach you, or that you can learn how to do almost anything that you want to do. The truth be told about my career and my kind of education, I went to a good college. I went to University of Michigan. Like, it's a good school, but there's very little that I learned in college that's relevant to what I do today. Like, almost all of my knowledge and understanding on business, on sales, on marketing, on family, on finance, none of that I learned in college. Really. Like it's interesting to me that people think that if you don't go to a good college, or you didn't get a good education growing up, that's going to hinder you long term. But the reality is, technology has allowed all of us access to some of the best educators in the world on any subject. I remember my wife and I, we were living in Scottsdale, Arizona. I was working in Phoenix, Arizona for a year and a half. We lived down there and worked down there. And I had a number of buddies that were in the finance industry. And I talked to them for a while about getting into finance, and the allure of working on Wall Street, and making a lot of money and being able to tell people you're in finance, right? Like, it was alluring to me. And so for a period of time, what I kind of decided to pursue was moving from medical sales into financial sales. And so what I did is I started doing research. All right, what do I have to do? What do I need to learn? And I was like, all right, well, if I get into it, I've got to take the Series 7 and the Series 63 exams. So what I did is, I bought a 1-year-old textbook off, Amazon or eBay, I don't remember, one of the two, for, $40. And I started learning and teaching myself finance. And I would, my wife would go to bed at 9 o'clock, and I would stay up till 11:30 or midnight almost every night teaching myself finance, working through this textbook and I think it was a Series 7 or a Series 63. I don't remember. One of those exam books, 7 or 63 I was going to take. And I was working through that, teaching myself finance. And, I still have those notes that I took down in my Evernote app. I could still go back and pull up hundreds and hundreds of notes that I put in there, pages of notes that I put in there as I was working through the Series 7 exam material. And nobody asked me to do that. Nobody forced me to do it. And conversely, nobody told me I couldn't do it. It was all a matter of literally going online, buying a textbook and starting to learn. And then I started, reaching out to financial companies and looking at, recruiters and going to their websites and applying for jobs. And in a short period of time, I had interviews with some of the bigger names in finance, like HSBC, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. And they were in different roles, and some of them were entry level, some of them were slightly above entry level. But if I wanted to get into the financial space, I totally could have, and it was all just driven by pure desire and effort. There were essentially no barriers to me doing it. Now, I would tell you that I spent probably 2 or 3 months studying and really cramming and learning finance that I had never learned before. And eventually I came to the realization that I was never going to be the best in finance. One of the things that I've come to realize is that it's the people that are at the top in every industry that make all the money. It's the 1% that make all the money. And they are the experts in the industry. They are the best of the best. And so what I had to accept, which was in some ways difficult, in some ways not, but what I had to accept is that after I had put in a number of hours studying for finance, I thought I was decent at it, but I'm not the best at numbers. I get numbers, but I just can't do the amount of calculations in my brain as quickly or as fluently